Jagadgurum. Though this is not a talk on the Bhagavad Gita, I began with a prayer to Lord Sri Krishna, the Gita Acharya, for Gita is about living our life wisely. And what is life except numerous relationships? What is living but various challenges as we find them in relationships? It is in the context of relationships that we have taken this topic for this webinar 208, the wisdom of the two parts. In any relationship, we find we are involved and then there is another person. A single person or a group, does not matter. But for simplicity, let's say the other. There is us, then there is the other. And nobody's life is a bed of roses. Everyone has countless challenges. No wonder every one of us sometimes feels like just running away somewhere. But where? Wherever you go, there you are. Again, relationships come up. Change this place, change the country, change your job. No matter where you go, relationships emerge anywhere and everywhere we go. Therefore, we thought of looking at some aspects of human relationships in this webinar. What I mean by some aspects is the domain of relationships is too vast. More we discuss, more we explore, more we analyze and understand, there seems to be more left. All right. What brings the title to this chapter or this webinar is this story. You have got this story in the synopsis that we sent to you. However, to quickly read it, two pots had been left on the bank of a river, one of brass, another, or the second one, of earthenware. When the tide rose, they both floated off down the stream. Now the earthenware pot tried its best to keep aloof from the brass one, while the latter cried out, shouted, "Fear nothing, friend, I will not strike you," thus inviting the earthenware pot. The earthenware pot replied, "I may come in contact with you, and if I come too close, whether I hit you or you hit me, it will be I who will suffer." That's all that I received from Swamiji over WhatsApp. When this story came to me a few days ago, I started asking myself the question, as we already had in the title slide, which pot are we? In this kind of scenario, are we the brass pot, which is also possible when other pots made of earthenware are afraid of us? Or are we the earthen pot, always very careful about hitting the brass pot by mistake, or the brass pot hitting us by mistake or intentionally, whichever way. Therefore, one being of brass, the second being of earthenware, is a very interesting metaphor for numerous difficult relationships. Either of them could be husband, the other wife. Either of them could be boss, the other subordinate. Either of them could be mother-in-law, the other daughter-in-law. Either of them, lastly, could be a guru and the other a disciple or student. There is conflict and friction between two people in any relationship, but we are lucky if some of our main relationships in day-to-day life are pretty smooth. Nothing is 100% smooth, but by and large, to a great extent, there is very little of heat or sound. It's a smooth interaction generally. So let's see now. Why am I not going to the next slide? Oh, it went. Yeah. The very next day after I got over WhatsApp from a Swamiji in Karnataka, that short story which I read out, I got this WhatsApp from another friend from among you students actually, where there was a video of just about 6 or 7 minutes by the popular speaker Gaur Gopal Das. As you know, he is quite insightful and with quite a bit of touch of humor, he is able to convey so much that is helpful to everyone in their daily life. So, Gaur Gopal Das, a Prabhu or a what we call officially a Swamiji, you know, a sadhu of Hare Krishna order. His video is titled, as I have put it here below his picture, How to Avoid Toxic People. And he says a lot of interesting things in that. In fact, gives the example of Sachin Tendulkar, who always remained calm. For the opposite team sometimes resorts to quite objectionable ways whereby they try to distract the players at this stage, maybe by talking some abusive language or some body language gestures, picking up a quarrel, arguing with the umpire, etc. But finally, we have to decide whether we should fall for all those pranks that the other side plays. And Sri Gopal Das says, Sachin Tendulkar had a reputation for remaining very calm no matter what the other side do. And the central message that he shares with how to, with us, in the context of how to avoid toxic people, so is respond, do not react. Obviously, we are presently talking about we are the earthenware and the toxic people are the brass pot. If we get too close, if we react, if we get involved with them more than what is desirable, not much will happen to them. The brass pot will not get broken, but the earthen pot will go to pieces. Therefore, keep a distance, remain calm, Respond, do not react. Pujya Swami Chinmayananji always said, act, do not react. Stephen Covey of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People had as the first habit among the 7 being be proactive. He also says, do not be reactive. Let your emotions not be at the mercy of what others say or do. Sometimes it's not other people only, weather may be bad. In the video by Gaur Gopal Das, he says, a bowler bowls a ball and the batsman uh, is very experienced. The way the ball is coming or the way the bowler has moved his hand, the batsman figures out that this is going to be an inward spin. But then there is a gush of wind. As the ball comes closer to the batsman, it turns into an outward spin. Therefore, the way the batsman approaches the ball doesn't become accurate to what is required, so he gets out. Instead of hitting it very well, he touches it a little, the ball flies in the air, and one of the fielders catches it. Now, it's no fault of the batsman. It's not intentional on the part of the bowler either. The bowler is lucky. Wind came to the help of the bowler. So, are situations in our control? Many a time they are not. Therefore, no matter what tomorrow will bring to us, is it possible for us to have an outlook, have a state of mind? For that, again, to draw from Prabhu, he says, you got to be culturally and spiritually strong. Don't do yuddha kale shastrabhyasa. Most of you have heard surely this expression. Yuddha kale shastrabhyasa. Enemies have attacked our kingdom, then we start searching for our weapons, and then we start practicing how to use these weapons, this sword or another. We have taken it all out of the go down and are now practicing. Yuddha kale shastrabhyasa. That's an idiomatic expression in Sanskrit to imply last minute preparation. By saying be culturally and spiritually strong, Sri Gaur Gopal Das, of course, drawing from Gita and all these sources of wisdom, says that day after day, you and I can make choices. You and I can make such choices that we don't fall for Preya, but opt for Shreya, and that makes us culturally and spiritually strong. And one of the aspects of being proactive or being responsive rather than reactive is to not ask, why did this happen to me? Of all people, why did I have to suffer? Oh my, is this some karma of my past life? I wonder what I had done in my past life, and so on. Don't ask all these questions. Why? Ask one wise question. What can I do about it now? Something bad happens in the present context. Some toxic people are around. What do I do about it? Keep a distance. Do not talk much with them. Do what is your duty. Do not pretend to be very friendly or courteous to them. Keep optimum distance. So that's what you can do. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, has a very interesting verse at the end of 5th chapter, 5.27, as we have written. Sparshan krutva bahir bahyan chakshushchaivantare bruoho pranapano samau kritva nasabhyantara charino. That's the whole sloka. But just the first quarter, one pada. Pada means a quarter. Shloka is divided into 4 quarters. One pada is enough many a time to save a situation. If we remember one appropriate pada, quarter of a shloka from Bhagavad Gita. This morning I watched a short video